It's the morning of day 3 at Oshkosh. Quiet, cloudy, and a nice break from the nonstop energy of the last 2 days. As I crawl out from under the wing of our Cessna 182, I'm going for a walk. Today is a view of a slice of the massive Warbirds area, and a bit of history I learned along the way. Let's start with one of the most iconic shapes on the Warbird ramp, the Corsair. Designed as a carrier fighter, the Corsair earned a fierce reputation in the Pacific. It was fast, heavily armed, and deadly in a dogfight. So much so the Japanese pilots nicknamed it Whistling Death. This exact plane's lived a storied life. It flew over 200 combat missions during the Korean War, carrying the same paint schemes it displays today. Even in static display, you can almost imagine the noise of those radial engines and the determination of pilots flying missions off those carriers. Now let's check out this Corsair, tail code 530. One of the founding aircraft of the Commemorative Air Force. It's got actual roots in CAF history, flying with them since around 1960. Built in July of 1945, this Corsair never saw combat, but went on to be rescued, restored, and repainted. That black and white checkerboard pattern on the nose and tail is unmistakable. It captures the squadron spirit perfectly. Being here at Oshkosh, close enough to trace the panel lines or almost feel the prop wash, it's not just a Warbird, it's a piece of living aviation heritage. One of the most iconic fighters of World War II, the P-51 Mustang combined long range with blistering speed and helped turn the air war over Europe. This beauty is Gentleman Jim, a tribute to Captain Jim Browning of the 357th Fighter Group. He was a close friend of Chuck Yeager, who flew cover for him on the day Browning was lost over Europe. Beautiful restoration and a powerful reminder of the personal stories behind these machines. Among the row of Warbirds, this silver Mustang gleams with history. Ain't Misbehavin' was flown by Captain Jesse R. Fry of the 357th Fighter Group, the famed Yoxford Boys. Fry flew over 300 combat hours without ever aborting a mission, taking down a Focke-Wulf 190 and a Messerschmitt 109 along the way. He credited his crew chief, Staff Sergeant Pat Pizzao, for keeping the plane so dependable it never failed him in combat. Their friendship endured long after the war, a bond forged in flight and grounded in trust. It all starts with that iconic Merlin engine, the heart of the Mustang's speed and range. But this one's carrying something unexpected, wing-mounted missiles. Post-war Mustangs were adapted for ground attack, though some might say they were way too fast for that job. From frontline fighters to the training field, this is the Beechcraft AT-11, a World War II bombing trainer. Over 90% of US bombardiers learned their craft in one of these. That nose, it's all glass for practicing bomb site work, a rare survivor from the training side of the war. This is the Douglas SBD Dauntless, a true combat veteran. Navy dive bombers like this one helped win the Battle of Midway. Unlike the AT-11, this bird trained nobody. It went straight into the fight. This is the Grumman Wildcat, short-legged, rugged, and unforgiving to fly. But when the Pacific War began, this was the best the Navy had. Underpowered and outgunned, the Wildcat held the line in the desperate early days, and somehow it held. With a top speed just north of 300 miles per hour, an armor that let it take a beating and still bring pilots home, the Wildcat earned respect in the brutal early years of the Pacific War. Here's another Wildcat, this one maintained by the Commemorative Air Force. Like many in the CAF fleet, it's kept not just as a museum piece, but as a living reminder of the men who flew them. Grumman called it tough, pilots called it trustworthy, and even now, 80 years later, it still looks ready for the fight. This gleaming Republic P-47 Thunderbolt is a tribute to Bonnie, a striking restoration that honors one of the most powerful fighters of World War II. Nicknamed the Jug, short for Juggernaut, the P-47 earned its name thanks to its bulky, jug-shaped fuselage. It wasn't sleek, but it was tough. With a big air-cooled radial engine and 8 50 caliber machine guns, the Jug could dish it out and take it too. This aircraft doesn't have its bombs loaded today, and I didn't catch it in the air, but even sitting still, it speaks to the strength and spirit of the era. It's restorations like this that remind you why we make the journey to the world's biggest air show. There's something timeless about watching a young boy peer into the cockpit of a World War II fighter, especially with his dad beside him. Moments like that pass the torch to the next generation, keeping the legacy alive. This is Janding 3, a restored Lockheed P-38 Lightning, honoring Captain J.T. Robbins of the famed Headhunter Squadron. With its twin booms and shark-like nose, the Lightning was fast, long-range, and deadly. Get in close and you see what made it so formidable. 50 caliber machine guns packed into the nose, surrounded by belts of ammunition ready to feed them. Beneath the fuselage a bomb, this one for show, reminds us that the Lightning could strike targets on the ground as well as in the sky. And then tucked off to the side, a jagged piece of the original wreckage, a silent testament to the violent end this aircraft once met, and the painstaking care it took to bring it back. We'll wrap up our Warbird walk on Boeing Plaza with two standout machines from Lewis Air Legends. First, the Grumman Hellcat. Tough, reliable, and a total game changer for the Navy in World War II. It was built to beat the Japanese Zero, and it did, racking up more aerial victories than any other Navy fighter in the war. Next to it, the Tigercat, bigger, faster, and built with twin engines and tricycle gear. It came in just too late for most of World War II, but the Marines put it to work post-war, especially as a night fighter. Both of these birds are kept flying by the folks at Lewis Air Legend, and seeing them out here in the sun among the crowd, it's a perfect way to close out this look at the Warbird ramp. I started this morning where it was quiet, just me, a few others, and the ghost of history. But by midday, the grounds of AirVenture have come alive. Tens of thousands gather to witness aviation's future unfold, like here at the FAA's Mosaic announcement. That's the magic of Oshkosh, past, present, and future, all on display. If you enjoyed this walk through the Warbirds, I've got more from AirVenture 2025. Experimental planes, interviews, and behind-the-scenes stories. You'll find them all in the playlist linked below. Please subscribe, and thanks for coming along on another Silva adventure. Stay tuned for more.